Hi Zeno, welcome so much. Thank you so much for coming to get your comic on over here in the UK. You've had a fantastic career spanning nearly 18 years in the business, as well as winning the Best English Voice Actor Performance at the 2021 Crunchyroll Anime Awards for your role as Hawks in My Hero Academia. Looking back at all your hard work, I wanted to explore your unique perspective on both Western and Eastern animation, as well as your personal experiences from walking both these roads since you grew up as the target audience and now you're one of the prominent voice actors inside. So to kick things off, what was the very first anime or cartoon that truly hooked you? And what was it that connected you? What was the spark?
Oh man, that's a hard question. I've been watching cartoons since I was a kid, like very, very young. If I wasn't watching cartoons, I was playing video games. So I want to say I think the cartoon that I think hooked me the most, that I began to sort of see as more than just a thing to entertain me, that it could speak to me on a deeper level, would be Static Shock. Um, it was, it's one of the few cartoons that I've watched several times. Um, and each time I watch it, I took something different away. Um, and I think it made me aware of a lot of my place in the world, and like superheroes and what they could be and what they could look like. And I just really, really identified with that show a lot. It was like one of the first pieces of television that I bought on my own to own physically. So that would probably be my answer there.
Fantastic. I'm also a fan of Static Shock. I remember it was
Yeah, it's such
absolutely
a good
brilliant.
show. The late
Um,
great Dwayne McDuffie. I mean, just like an absolute, his pen has influenced so much of my creativity and how I approach like work and how I view the industry. And so, much respect to him.
no, thank you. That's perfect. So Static Shock being a perfect example. In the 2000s, Western shows they began to change with things like Avatar, Samurai Jack, and Teen Titans. As you were the target audience back then, how did these more complex and serialized stories feel different from the traditional episodic, self-contained episodes that we were previously receiving?
Hmm. Um, they became exciting on a way that you wanted to tune in each week to see what happens. It was a thing where you were following a story as opposed to living with characters. Because you were following a story and because the stakes were so high, like in Samurai Jack, his whole thing was trying to get back to the past, and he always encountered some sort of obstacle that would like get in his way. You know what I mean? Like he always, or there might be an episode where he gets close to going back to the past, or he runs into an enemy that is too much for him or challenging. And so, you spent week by week like following the characters, the depth of the story, the complexities of the stories, the nuance of the characters kept you hooked, and they kept you engaged, and you fell in love with the drama. You fell in love with the sort of relatable situations that the characters on screen were having, as opposed to some of the more like highbrow like silliness of other cartoons in that time frame, in that era. So I think like it became exciting to, you almost had to tune in to see what happened next, as opposed to a new episode being, hijinks, that you're new hijinks for characters that you love, that you're used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So your earliest role was Alan Albright in Ben 10
Mhm.
Alien Force, which I do distinctly remember. The time jump was a real good alluring concept to see an
Mhm.
older Ben. Was voice acting always the dream, or was it a pivot from, say, live action or theatre work?
It wasn't always the dream, but I also don't consider it a pivot either. Like, I love cartoons and I love games. And so auditioning for cartoons was fun. It was a companion to the things that I wanted to do, like live action, and movie and TV and film. It was a companion piece. I had always wanted to be in a cartoon or to be in a game, and so being in Ben 10, getting to, Static Shock had such an impact on me. So getting to be in that show and getting to meet Dwayne McDuffie before he passed as one of the highest honors of my career, being, so young. I had Static Shock as my phone background, and I got to show him, when we did our table read, because I guess back then they used to do table reads before they recorded the episodes, which was cool. But like, I got to do that, and it was like a dream come true. So I always just wanted to be an actor and on TV and involved in some way with the industry. So voice acting is just a companion to my dreams, to what I wanted to do. It was a part of it.
Oh, brilliant. And you grew up in this era of anime fandom where it was still at the time somewhat niche and finding community was quite an effort. What is it like for you now seeing that anime has become completely mainstream where you have Olympic athletes doing poses, rappers, and even Hollywood stars like Michael B. Jordan openly rocking anime gear and doing homages?
I think it lets me know that I'm not crazy, right? Like I think there, um, me and a lot of my friends growing up also were, I just gravitated to people who also really liked anime, and I realized how many people in my community and how many people around me liked anime. So it always made sense to me. Like I guess I never saw it as like sensational or like this big deal, like that other celebrities and it's like, yeah, everybody likes anime. They sometimes people just don't talk about it because they might think it's a little weird, but it's like finding a person who also likes the thing you're into, but you guys are both too shy to say it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think like just the world was too shy to say that they liked anime to each other. And then once we started normalizing it, everybody's like, oh yeah, you like that too? Oh, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it just proves why so many people liked anime when it was niche. And I think like as the world began to sort of gravitate toward the storytelling of anime, it justifies it as a storytelling medium. It justifies it as um, a powerhouse in how powerful narratives can be and how powerful animation still is and can be. So yeah, I think it's great. It's not surprising to me at all. I think it just like lets me know like I had good taste. I was on the right side of history. And I'm glad that like now it's something that everybody can embrace. I think there's a real sense of community within anime, and so I'm glad like people can find those communities and not sort of like hide anymore, you know?
Yeah, completely agree with you. I do remember the silent whispers of, "Are you a fan?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
like this
Oh,
too?
wait,
Come."
you like that? You know?
So, once you got into the industry and you started picking up these roles, particularly in anime, was there a moment when your fan brain effectively shut off and the professional brain took over? And do you ever have a moment in the booth where you've looked at the script and just thought, like, I can't believe I'm the one reading these lines right now? Like, is this real?
All the time. I think that typically my fan brain never shuts off. There's never a moment where the fan brain is, it's like, stop being a fan now, we must work. And I think the fan brain feeds the professional brain and is like, okay, you're a fan of this, you know what you liked to hear growing up, or you know what things drew you to this growing up. Use that in the professional setting, right? How can you make someone else as deep of a fan of this property or of this thing, like you were to something else, right? So I think for me, I use the fan brain is the passion, and I
Mm.
use that passion to enhance my professional sensibilities when I'm working. So most of the time though, I think the biggest I found out was working on Dragon Ball, like because it was like one of the first anime I ever watched. Like that question you asked earlier, like it's one of the first anime that I was ever drawn to, that I was aware of that was an anime. I used to like on recess practice my kamehamehas. Like that was me on the playground as a kid. So getting to I was in Texas for a con, Alex and I, and when we recorded the superhero movie, and I had Chris Sabat, an anime and legend, sitting in the director's chair across the glass, with Raleigh, who's been working on the Dragon Ball franchise for years. And literally hearing, first of all, Chris Sabat just being an anime legend, having him direct me was crazy. So getting to hear him talk and joke with me and talk about, like he was like, hey, you're really passionate about this, and that can be a little rare, because some of the people I've worked on this for years, they're sort of used to the flow of Dragon Ball and how it goes, but like it's refreshing to see your passion for the franchise. And then playing alongside Piccolo, like hearing this voice that I've heard since I was a kid, like every year since I was a kid that I grew up with, now I'm acting alongside it. It was like, what I mean? Like, it's like
I could
super
definitely imagine.
crazy. Yeah, like
You're now talking to
absolutely.
Piccolo and
I
he talks back.
Before I even started, I had to just like, I had to be like, wait, can I just sit here for a second? Like I'm talking to Piccolo right now, like I'm talking to Vegeta right now. It was really crazy.
I certainly envy you on that one. That's very impressive. I actually got a chance to interview Chris about last year, and
Mm.
I had the same mindset of just like I'm sat in my living room and talking to this guy who
Yeah,
I've it's been a voice throughout my childhood. It's
yeah,
surreal.
so
Um,
crazy.
so speaking especially back on those animes back then, um, I tend to call them the Four Kids era, where with
Hmm.
censorship, where One
Hmm.
Piece had water guns and the infamous Pokemon scene of rice balls being called jelly donuts.
Jelly donuts. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how like Western localization has evolved to fully respect the source material and not assuming that we won't understand what a rice ball is, for instance?
I think it follows a principle that I think we talked about earlier, with sort of like, as the target audience for like the more like our Teen Titans, our Samurai Jacks, our Young Justices, right? Like we get to a point where we stop talking down to kids. We stop talking down to them, and we present stories as they're intended to be, right? And it gives the audience an opportunity to connect with the culture that they're enjoying, that they're experiencing right now. So, even if a kid doesn't know what a rice ball is, they can learn. Even if a kid doesn't, like that is part of. I think the beauty of anime is you're also sort of getting to get a sneak peek, like a look into the window of another culture that isn't yours, and you're learning their mannerisms, and you're learning how they speak to each other, and what kind of cuisines they eat, and their humor. And so there's a lot of that I think people gravitate towards as well. And so I think like with localization these days, we it's grown to a point of either trying to honor, I think there's still a lot of opportunities to, when it comes to humor, when it comes to like translating things over from Japanese to English, to make it make sense to an American audience, not just like taking the translation and we're just saying exactly word for word. But I think there's sort of a nice combination of the story as it's intended, and translating it through the lens of making it um, um, of making it a story that Americans and people in the West and people worldwide can enjoy without taking away their original intent. We did a lot of play with shows like Gachiakata and things like that, where it's not one for one to what the characters say in Japanese, but it is more sort of adapted into a project, or adapted into a show that Americans can enjoy using American slang, using, Av and African American slang, as opposed to sort of just like taking the original Japanese translation and giving people that show. It's sort of like giving a particular version of the original anime, which I think is cool because it gives people a different experience so that they can experience it as it's intended when you watch the original Japanese, and you can experience an American adaptation of it in a way.
Yeah, agreed. I completely agree. And so you've been incredibly vocal and supportive of diversity and correct representation in the voiceover industry. Looking back at the landscape, or looking at the landscape today, compared to back in the 2000s, uh, anime and cartoon boom that you grew up with, what are you seeing the most meaningful progress in terms of opportunities for actors of color, and what barriers do you feel still need to be broken down or dismantled?
Mm. I think some of it is inspired by like Western animation. A lot of Western animation doesn't necessarily have a problem with the diversity. I mean, Static Shock is a there weren't a lot. There's all there was Western animation had its issues, right? But you probably couldn't go very long without seeing a black character on a Western show,
Yeah.
or a character from another culture or from another, I think there were always people working to make sure there was representation in that field too, even though like there was work that needed to be done there. A lot of the shows that came out in that day at least had, like a person of color somewhere, an Asian character, a black character, a Native American character. It was like they even back then it was like they always needed at least one, right? Like you always wanted at least one in all of them. And so, but I think some of the problem was like it didn't give a lot of opportunity for actors of that color to sort of represent their people, or their culture. And so, like, I think today the most significant progress I think is always like is the willingness to have the conversation, right? The willingness to be mindful of it and to be aware of it and to see in what ways can we, um, you know either like break down our own preconceived notions of what diversity means and what representation means, and how can we make sure people feel seen, people feel represented. It means a lot for people, and more than I think a lot of people notice. So I think like feeling, when I grew up I didn't see many black actors or voice actors in the space, but especially in the anime space. There are quite a few in the animation space. We have our Phil Lamarrs, our Corey Paytons, our Keith Davids, but there wasn't a ton in anime. And there's always like a handful in each, right? So like maybe Western animation had 10 or 12, and like anime had like 4, so
True.
I think like now that we're willing to have the conversations, we're willing to be more aware of these things. We're willing to see what avenues can we open up for everybody, and then what avenues can we open up for marginalized people, right? What avenues can we open up for that are for everyone, that everyone can take a part in, and what avenues can we open up for people who don't feel seen or who don't feel represented? How can we make them feel that way? How can we make them how can we even like get actors of different backgrounds and of different cultures and put them in positions where they can be representatives for their cultures, so other people who can look to them as inspirations, as I have looked to my predecessors as inspirations.
No, that's perfect. And yeah, you made a great example there with Phil Lamar, his character his character of Hal Jordan in Justice League.
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't really know much about DC when I was a child, so that is my Green Lantern.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's John Stewart.
yes, sorry, yes,
Hmm.
John Stewart,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
particularly to then link him his importance in that world
Hmm.
to Static Shock, exactly
Hmm.
like you were saying in the representation aspect. Um,
Hmm.
I think I'm definitely not alone in that version of Green Lantern is a lot of people's default Green
Oh yeah,
Lantern.
100%. That version of Green Lantern, who I think had just appeared in the comics, or who had appeared in the comics but hadn't made an animation appearance in years. Um, has become a lot of people's like, that's Green Lantern to them. And it doesn't take away from the Hal Jordans or the Kyle Rayners, of the world, or the Simon Bazes of the world, or the Jessica Cruzes of the world. That's the point, is they can all be Green Lantern. They can all be someone's Green Lantern. And so I think like Phil Lamarr was very, very, I don't even think he knew it at the time, but he was very instrumental to representation for a lot of people, and a lot of black kids, and some not black kids, like that. He just simply from what he did and what he does, um just following his art, just doing what he loves, being a great actor, has like stayed in the minds and the hearts of generations of people.
Thanks for watching, Super Friends. Check out more videos from across our YouTube channel right here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share on all your favourite platforms. See you next time.